Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to our Ask the Expert series. We are very happy that you could join us. My name is Andrews Darkon, a PhD student, and I'm in my final year. During this session, you'll be talking about economic solutions, tackling youth unemployment in post-COVID world. To help us do this, you'll be joined by Edward Cartwright, Professor of Economics, and then Swati, Senior Lecturer in Economics, and it goes Senior Lecturer in Economics, and Nelash, Lecturer in Economics, and the current student from the Faculty of Business and Law. You'll be answering any questions that you have at the end of the live stream. So please leave us a comment if you want, if you would like to join the discussion or have a question about the topic that you are going to discuss today, which is about economic solution, tackling youth unemployment in post-COVID world. First of all, let's introduce everyone joining me today.
Hello everyone, so my name's Edward Cartwright. I'm a Professor of Economics at De Montfort University with particular interests in behavioural economics and game theory.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello everyone, I'm Swati Virmani. I'm Senior Lecturer in Economics in the Department of Economics and Marketing at De Montfort University. More recently, I'm interested in working around artificial intelligence, impact on varied professions, digital capabilities, and innovative pedagogy within the UK higher education.
Thank you, Swati.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Gosai Gudia is my name. I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. My research is on the informal economy in emerging market economy, and of course also covers the issue of policies and how to reduce poverty and enhance economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren and I'm a final year joint honours accounting and economics student here at DMU.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, students, over to the students who have joined us, or if you can mention your name. All right. Okay, that was great. Thank you for joining me. Adrian, let's start with you. Could you please talk to us about the topic of the day, which is economic solution, tackling youth unemployment in post-COVID? Can you introduce us to the topic and we start off with the conversation?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we should maybe warn up front, this is not going to be a good news story because the situation with regard to youth unemployment is pretty bad. But I think the economic point of view is that if we understand the problem, then we can maybe offer solutions. So I think I'll start off with some of the bad news, and then hopefully as the session progresses, we can offer some solutions and some policy options for things that can do. So I'll start the story with the financial crisis, which was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So at that time, there was a massive increase in unemployment because of the crisis. But what that ultimately ended up doing is fundamentally changing the labour market for young people. So employment actually rebounded quite quickly from the crisis. But then when you look at why, there was a huge increase in self-employment. So in other words, people were basically working for themselves. And that coincided, I mean, it was the same thing as the rise in the gig economy. So Uber, Deliveroo, all these kinds of things. So people basically, you know, making a job for themselves. Now, the issue with that is that this was typically low quality work. Yeah. Now, you know, some people might really like working for Deliveroo or like working for Uber. It's not that can't be a solution, but we do know that this was often low wage work. So self-employed people often getting lower than the minimum wage, which You might think it's illegal, but it's not, because they're working for themselves. So, they're getting low paid, and also having no job security. So 0-hour contracts is something you might have heard about, right? Again, what that means is you have, no job security. So what we saw is a lowering of wages, an increase in insecurity for young people. So young people might have got a job, but it might be low paid. It might have, no security, maybe no clear career progression. Again, working for Deliveroo, okay, it might get you some money, but where's the career progression from that? So we've seen over the last 10 years a fundamental shift in the labour market for young people, which was not necessarily good. And the government, I think, kind of turned slightly a blind eye to that on the basis that any job is better than no job. But yeah, we can come back to that. Then coronavirus then comes on top of that. Now, I mean, we obviously all live in this COVID world. We can see it's having a huge impact, but it's had a particularly massive impact on young people and young people's employment. Two basic reasons for that. One, the sectors that have been particularly hard hit are hospitality and retail. So restaurants, hotels, bars, shops, and those are precisely the kind of places that typically employ young people. So, no less jobs for young people. And I think the other thing, which is often doesn't get as much press, is we've now been in this situation for a year. And over that year, businesses have not been hiring people. So that means school leavers, university leavers have been faced with a labour market that, essentially doesn't exist. So while people would have been shifting into jobs, there are no jobs to go into. So what we're seeing is a very large rise in unemployment for young people. So, this is not a great situation. So we've seen this shift to low wage, low quality jobs. Now we've got this shock on top of that. So I think there's very real fears about what the job market is going to be like for young people. And hopefully, as the session goes on, we'll be able to offer some potential solutions as to how we can deal with that. But at this point, I will pass you back to Andrews so that we can move on to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Edward. I'll just move on to Dr. Swati to also give us her viewpoint.
Right. Thanks, Andrews. Well, I thought I'll briefly talk around technology and try to look at how the impact of technology has been, emancipated because of pandemic. So we already know that technology advances in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics are changing the nature of work. Future of work has been impacted by things like virtual reality, augmented reality that increase the interactivity of physical spaces and objects. This is mainly because the volume, the speed, the complexity with which the machines work, that adds a comparative advantage to them against a human brain, which is often sometimes limited because of their cognitive capacity. So how do we make sure that, given the future is digital, that the young people aren't left behind? The answer somewhat, or part of the answer, lies in human-machine interaction. Both the parties need to understand where their comparative advantage lies. I mean, the need is for skill set to change, to not just integrate technical hard skills, which would be, let's say, digital skills, computer skills, coding, but also the focus now need to shift on to soft skills. When I say soft skills, so soft skills are mostly socio-emotional skills that involve, let's say, thinking critically, problem-solving skills, or creativity, adaptability, or even willingness to just gain more knowledge. Now, the reason we are talking about tech and we're talking about skills is because we know that tech has a silver lining for young generation. They are definitely, or even slightly better off working with tech. So if they also include or enhance their soft skills, then that is the essential key currently. Now, we were just trying to understand this sort of balance between technology and human and machine sort of collaboration when the pandemic hit. Now, pandemic has, affected this balance twofold. First of all, it has fast-tracked digital transformation. Working at home, remote working, or even use of online tools, even within schools, higher education framework, that has got fast-tracked. So on the one hand, that has become, the pace has increased of digital transformation. And on the other hand, because of pandemic, the generation of soft skills or the development of soft skills, which are creativity or critical thinking or team leadership, has been affected because of absence of human contact. So pandemic sort of has had twofold impact on not just fast tracking digital transformation, but also impacting the generation of soft skills. So I believe that this is the key time when there has to be a huge stress or huge focus on upskilling and training. So things like local partnership, apprenticeships are essential in this time period to enable not just the reduction of skill gap, but also perhaps to bring in new skills that are more futuristic or that could open up avenues which are untapped, right? So bring in more added capacity in varied areas of business. So I feel that the pandemic situation and this current time period makes training, upskilling, education packages really, really essential.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Swati. Now let's invite Dr. Igosas to help us. So if I had your name wrong.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking about the impact of coronavirus on developing and emerging economies. Uh, of course, as you would expect, the impact has been severe for some of these countries for a number of reasons. Number one, the structure of these economies, the dependence of these economies on mono source of income, and the kind of jobs in this economy. And so, due to the impact on these areas, it can extend, it has extended to their income level, the future prospect of households and the likes of them. So I will explain each of these. Now, there's a lot of statistics, but time will fail me to begin to relay these statistics. But in terms of impact on that arises from the structure of these economies. Now, most of these economies have weak structure, weak institutions, and they do not have infrastructure before the crisis. And so, because of the lack of these institutions and even weak institutions and structure, they find it difficult to cope with the consequences of the virus. Now, I'll give example. Um, in advanced countries, for instance, the way the crisis has been handled in terms of education, schooling, it has been moving teachings and education online. But for most of these countries, they did not have the capacity, they did not have a stable and reliable internet to ensure that children are educated. And so this has been a problem. And of course, not just a short-term problem, it's going to be a problem for the future because they'll be lacking behind in terms of what they're supposed to learn and which can affect them ultimately into the future. The income opportunity they can access in the future. Now, not just that, it has increased poverty in these countries. This again due to what I earlier mentioned, unemployment. So unemployment has increased significantly, which because the jobs available in most of these countries are related to what Professor Edward once mentioned about the uh, self-employed, high level or a high number of people that are self-employed. They operate in what I would call the informal economy. Is very large. My colleague Nestle will be talking about that. The informal economy is so large for most of these countries. In fact, 9 out of 10 jobs are being carried out in this sector. So because my colleague is going to talk about that, I'm not going to dwell much on that. But this sector has been significantly affected by coronavirus. The lockdown meant that they were not allowed to go about their businesses. And of course, if people cannot earn, if they cannot carry out their daily work, it means their source of livelihood are taken off them. And what still, most of these countries do not have what we call the welfare system. So the problem with that is the handouts, as we experience in advanced countries, is not available for these countries. Then we can also talk about the impact of mono-dependent on a particular or one source of revenue for these countries. We can talk of those that depend on primary products, or those that depend on oil, for instance, or those that even depend on tourism. So these countries have been significantly affected, and the prices of these commodities crashed during the lockdown, so which affected significantly the revenue of these countries. What most of these countries now did was to resort to borrowing, and in fact, some of them have borrowed up to 51% of their GDP, of their 2020 GDP, and they are not only faced with uh, a current crisis as to how to service this debt in the short term. It's going to continue into the future, where they cannot carry out or execute capital projects that will in fact limit their capacity to be productive in the future. Not only that, the debt overhang, they stand a problem of chance of defaulting in their debt. In fact, according to JP Morgan recent research for emerging market sovereign external debt, the result shows that about 37% of bonds on the emerging market is likely to suffer from default. So that shows the kind of risk that these countries are facing due to a coronavirus. Now, just to summarize, these countries already had a structural defect, already had high unemployment, even highest among youths, and already had a high level of poverty. And coronavirus had just increased that. So at this moment, we pause and hoping that we'll come back to talk about other issues about how it has resulted inequality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Igosa. At this moment, can I invite Nesla to help us? Over to you.
Hello. Can everyone see me? Can everyone hear me? Is okay?
Everyone can hear you. Everyone can see you as well.
Okay. Sorry, I'm late because I was teaching.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. So I will keep it short because of the time, and I'm going to talk about the informal economy and the COVID impact on the informal economy. Informal economy is extremely controversial topic, but what is unique about the informal economy? Why is it taking so much attention, so much focus, especially nowadays? So first of all, informal economy. What is informal economy? It is part of our lives, and it is the permanent feature of today's world economy. Then we see maybe people every day, they are part of the informal economy. So informal economy covers a wide range of economic activities, from legal economic activities to illegal. What I mean is the criminal economic activities, people from entrepreneurs, home-based workers, and the street vendors. So we can say that the term informal economy used to define all economic activities that are outside the formal regulatory environment. Narrowly, then I can say that all paid activities that are not reported and not under government observation. So informal economy then can be survival, it can be voluntary. In general, it is survival in developing economies and voluntary in developed economies, in advanced economies. So there are different arguments for that. So it is a very big topic. It is very large. So I will focus on some basic things. People prefer informal economy voluntarily because of flexible working hours, because of more freedom, and to avoid taxes, maybe. But if it is survival in general, it is characterized by, for example, poor working conditions, no contracts, no paid leaves, low wages, So what I want to talk about is that I want to talk about the informal economy and the COVID impact on the informal economy. My research focused on the informal economy, labor market, and the financial crisis. Financial crisis, there are millions of studies. You can see that they show that financial crisis is associated with a significant increase in unemployment, significant decline in GDP growth, and decline in wages. So now we see that people are losing their jobs, and there is a decline in wages, and the COVID-19 is a health crisis. It is affecting general public. It is directly affecting general living system. Then it is affecting economic and financial structure of the economies, many economies. So there are two things we can talk about informal economy and COVID-19. One is the good thing. We can say that informal economy in these times might act as a buffer. It is because people are losing their job, but they must survive, and they may participate in the formal economy. We have young people, newly graduates, for example. They don't have adequate enough experience. They have lack of skills. They may participate in the informal economy, and the informal economy can be a temporary accommodation for young people. Women hit hardest by the by the COVID-19. It is because of their daycare activities, homeschooling, childcare activities. So then think about that. So women may participate in the informal economy because of the flexible hours, and because this may give them more freedom. So we think that in this case, in these times, the informal economy may act as a buffer and may be a safety net for many people in that case. So that's the optimistic view. On the other hand, informal economy can be adversely affected by the COVID-19 as formal economy, and these people in the informal economy more vulnerable. The informal economy is more vulnerable, because of the lockdown, people are not able to go to their jobs. They have to stay at home. If they go, they might not have adequate protection in the informal. They might not have adequate protection because of the nature of the informal economic activities. So it is highly likely that they get virus. And there are studies that shows that, and people living under poor conditions, they're more likely to catch virus. So they think that in this case, so informal economy is vulnerable, it will be affected, so it will not survive like the formal sector, because businesses are collapsing in the informal sector, people are losing their jobs. So what these people will do, this is very important, because if people do not have income, still they need to survive, they may participate in illegal criminal economic activities, or they may go to the streets. So that is very important. So from the policy perspective, I just want to say that informal economy is playing important role in job creation and income generation. So the governments and policymakers should address the vulnerability of people in the informal economy, and must attune the informal economy, must attune their understanding of the informal economy as one of the main job provider. For women, for young people, because as I said, it can be temporary. They get skills and experience in the informal economy, and they can move from informal economy to the formal economy. So they should see the transition from informal economy to formal economy crucial. So in the formal sector, they think that people are getting financial support. For example, we have self-employment grants, people who are not able to run their business or not able to go to their workplace, so they get these grants. People in the informal economy should also get these grants, should also get the financial support from the government. That's the thing. Small businesses in general, these are run by the women, so they should get the loans, because in the formal sector, the small businesses or large businesses, they are getting loans from the government because they are affected by the COVID-19. So in the informal sector, it is same. They are affected by the COVID-19. They should get the loan. Nobody recognizes these people in the informal economy because they are not recognized. Businesses are collapsing. They don't have income. Nobody recognizing people, businesses, but they still need to survive. Even if you look at the local Leicester, there are people, they are not getting financial support. They don't have income. So what these people are doing? So that's the question. Nobody is recognizing them. So in this case, government should consider formalization of some informal economic activities. That's very important. This is because young people might also in the informal sector, they participate in the informal sector, and they may get skills and experience. So in order to support these people in the informal sector, and the government might consider formalizing some of the activities. And women in the informal sector should get childcare and activities, maybe cash grants, in order to support. And they think that women who are running small businesses in the informal sector, they are not able to access credit. So the government should consider, in order to support women, and they should let them to access credit. They are not recognized. Maybe government should consider these voluntary disclosure initiatives, and then instead of penalizing the informal sector and people in this sector, they should provide some financial support them, because one of the barriers for women is the childcare activities and home care activities, daycare activities. And right now, women are the first ones losing their jobs in the formal sectors, or they leave the formal sector voluntarily and they participate in the informal sector because of the flexibility. So this is also widening the wage gap between men and women, both in the formal sector and the informal sector. So yes, so I think that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Nilis. At this moment, those who are joining us can have your conversation and your question coming through, and you'll be willing to answer it. We are really, the topics have been very interesting. Thank you, Edward, and all other academics who help us with this insightful thoughts. At this moment, before you get to the question and answer session, we have Lauren, who also help us with her thoughts being a student in the MU. Lauren, let's hear you.
Hi, so yeah, I just thought I'd quickly answer a question that's come up in the comment box. Can a DMU student work part-time in the university? So I believe if you're talking about sort of earning some money whilst you're studying, I definitely think, like a lot of students, especially in this situation, one thing they're worried about is being able to afford university and being able to like fund their rent and things like that. Not all students have access to a certain amount of maintenance loan. It might not cover their rent. So that is a really good question. I think one of the things that DMU has to offer as well is like there is a uni temps office. So I've actually done part-time work at the university doing open days, helping with like campus tours. There's lots of different, like a couple of hours here and there to be flexible around all your studies. So if you are after some part-time work to sort of support your studies, that's an option. And also one of the other things I've done while studying is I worked in a shoe shop part-time before my placement. So that's something else, just like part-time job to be able to get some money. But what I really like about the uni temps is that you can sort of pick it up wherever you need, if you have a little bit of extra money. And I think as well, obviously during this situation, shops and restaurants aren't open. So a lot of people are concerned about, oh, will I be able to get work easily? But I think that uni temps is a really good option for that as well, because we do it all online at the moment. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. But yeah, so yeah, I think basically I'm a third year student at DMU doing accounting and economics, as I said earlier. So I do 50-50 modules with accounting and economics. So yeah, I did a placement year as well. So technically it is my fourth year. We have done, obviously everything went a bit pear-shaped during my placement because that was last year. So I started my placement, everything was all fine. And then COVID hit and I sort of went from going to London every day to working in my room just here, like every day. And that's quite a big change for like a lot of people as well. And I think that actually it's sort of, for me, like to have that experience, I've had experience like learning at university online and working properly online. So I've sort of tried to see the positives out of it, seeing what things are going to be like as the lecturers were saying earlier, like things of like technology has been changing. People are really going into more of a work from home sort of setting now. So people were saying like this could continue, like people like find it more beneficial working from home. People prefer having without the commute. and things like that. So it was nice to have an experience doing a bit of both, actually. It's sort of, I've kind of seen it in a positive light because of that. So during my lectures and things like that this year, in my final year, we have learned quite a bit about COVID-19 and the economy, particularly in my macro module. So you get to pick in your final year as a joint honours, you can either do both micro and macro or get a choice. So I chose macro. We did lots of, our assignment was based on COVID-19 and how it's impacted, like a permanent negative demand shock, and sort of trying to sort of analyse what would happen in the future. Will this be permanent? Will this be temporary? Why all the different things that sort of come into it? Because as the lecturers have been talking about, there's so many things that have been impacted due to this. Like no one could have really foreseen like how long it would go on for either. And I think that's probably one of the worst things about it, because so many things, like things you can't even imagine, just changing like everything. It's basically changed everyone's lifestyles, people not being able to sort of like find work, and obviously students graduating, a lot of firms will have stopped hiring. So I think it's quite concerning for a lot of students who might be worried about graduating in a pandemic. So I think definitely like one of the things I would say about that, like I did a placement, as I said, so I did mine in the Government Economic Service. I worked as an economist doing sort of analysis on countries. So, and like, I worked in trade. So basically one of my job was to analyse sort of trade between the UK and other countries, particularly in Europe. There's a lot of Brexit related stuff. When COVID hit, my work stream completely changed to COVID. So that's another thing that was quite like not usual for a placement student to sort of be exposed to something like that. But I must say, like, I found it really insightful to sort of have my hands in the dirt a bit, like really sort of get involved. I would say that doing a placement has actually helped me get a graduate role, because I am actually returning there on as a graduate in September. So I did get offered a job as a result of my placement. I got to do an interview and they did let me have a graduate role, which is brilliant. And I know that isn't the case for everyone, and I think that it is really tough at the moment. But what I will say is, if you're not yet at university, or if you're in your first year, even like at the start of like your second year, and you're sort of thinking, oh, I don't know what this is going to be like looking like for me graduate role wise at the end, I would really recommend looking into doing a placement, because placements, like at DMU anyway, everyone can have a chance to do one. So that's what I liked about when I was choosing my university. I think I really like the fact that DMU, you could do a placement if you chose to, and you could choose quite late as well. Like a lot of unis, you have to apply and say, oh, I want to do a placement year, or I don't, and you can't really change later on. Whereas DMU, I decided quite late personally that I was going to do one. And I think that people who, like, it makes you stand out a little bit more. So from doing like an internship, there's also front runners internships at DMU. You just make yourself stand out that little bit more and a bit more employable. And I think that's something that students can do themselves to sort of help them out a little bit during all this crisis, just to get some sort of experience under their belt at a young age. Because when it comes to applying for graduate roles, it's competitive enough as it is. And obviously now the job market is even more competitive. And I know a lot of people are quite worried about that. And I think definitely, like, my advice to people who would be coming to university would definitely be try and get some work experience, and maybe just like a free 4-week internship that you don't get paid for, maybe. A lot of them do pay now anyway, and things like that. So yeah, I would recommend trying to do a placement year, because if like you're lucky, something can come of it, or it just gives you the relevant experience to be able to go on and get something a lot quicker. So yeah, it really helped me broaden my economics knowledge as well, because like I said, as working as an economist in government during a crisis like this, like you can't really get closer than that, I guess. But yeah, career-wise, I would like to stay in government for a little while. I just want to sort of see what's going on. I'm really not sure what I want to do, like, forever. Like, I'm not really sure, like, what for my working life. I don't know what's in store for me, but I definitely would like to stay in government for a few years. But I definitely would like to get some banking and finance sort of related experience in the future in the private sector. And I know that's been a bit of advice given to me from quite a few people, both on my placement and at the university, to get, you know, have a little bit of experience from both and decide what I want to do. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you for your thoughts and your that you've shared with us So at this moment, just to wrap up the whole thing, you ask our academics to answer some questions that have been posed by students, and I hope our coordinator will raise the question bar for people to ask their question. So, a question: what advice will you give to entrepreneurs during lockdown in this current climate? Yeah, I think yes.
Yeah,
But you want to help us? Okay, Edward.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can come in here, and then I think Igosa also has some points. I mean, so I'll kind of give the economic research answer to that question, and then just some kind of random thoughts of my own. So I think the economic answer is to survive, because we know that in periods of severe economic churn, which, you know, and crisis, which is what we're in now, that's when the small businesses that survive tend to go on and do very well. You know, in sunny times where the economy is booming, right, businesses can survive much more easily. When we're in these times of crisis, that's when the small businesses that are ultimately gonna make their name tend to emerge. So then, you know, the simple answer is kind of try and survive, because lots of small businesses are going to be going bankrupt in the background. I think I mean, to then kind of add to that, what does survival mean? I think it's probably going to mean being innovative. So I think we've seen lots of examples, for instance, of restaurants and pubs going takeaway services, delivery services. It's this thinking outside the box as to how the business can continue. I think the other key thing is to talk to those backers, the financial backers, to keep them on board, because these are tough times, and you know, so obviously keeping the those that are backing the company on board is really key. But I think that the third thing I would say is then really planning for what the future is going to look like. So we know that lots of small businesses are going to go bankrupt. They already are. We know the world is probably going to look slightly different, with home working being far more common and so on. And indeed, this huge pool of youth unemployment that we're likely to have. So then I think it's about entrepreneurs thinking, okay, how can they have an effect in that new environment that's going to emerge, hopefully by the end of this year onwards. So I think Igosa also wanted to say something about this. I'll pass him on now.
Yeah, it goes out. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. You can add something.
Yeah, hello again. Now, I just want to bring in the developing and emerging economies dimension to this. The way I see the pandemic is, first, of course, it's a problem. Okay, it brings a problem. But in the midst of the problem is an opportunity. So it's just to change that perspective that, well, it's here. What can I do to take advantage of the opportunity? Because it's going to reset everything. Okay. You know, what the entrepreneur cannot do is to begin to assess and explore other opportunities that are there, that are available. Of course, right now, for developing and emerging economies, you have the world at your fingertips. So what do? You take advantage of it. You can access the whole globe from your bedroom right now. So it is looking out for those opportunities, broadening your business, and like Prop already said, being innovative about it. So it's very, very, very crucial. Of course, we know the issue of finance may not be there, but you can think beyond the box. There are things you can do on the social media, using all of them: Facebook, WhatsApp, um, and yeah, Instagram, or various social network. You can take advantage of them to to explore opportunities, to market your product, and to launch yourself and see. I think, yeah, it can be an opportunity to excel.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Ngusa. Thank you very much. Yeah, any other question from okay, how should young people prepare for what is to come, and how can they be equipped for job? Can Dr. Swati help us with this question?
Yes, of course. I just want to take the last line from what Lauren was mentioning to start the answer for this question. She just said that things are very uncertain. She's ready for, to look things around business and accountancy, but other avenues as well. That just tells that how you need to prepare for future in the current scenario is the key thing is here adaptability. I mean, you need to be able to pivot very, very quickly to something new. You need to stretch your, boundaries. You need to find more creative solutions here. So think not just in terms of, digitally expanding your skills, but also just to, expand your creative thinking, be more adaptable, be ready to gain more knowledge, focus on different skills that you can add to your CV. Try getting a placement here, just as Lauren has done at De Montfort. Try finding, any apprentice opportunity, which adds the fact that something that we are talking around entrepreneurs, it can be a hand in glove. So an entrepreneur can find a useful business, in a sort of business thinking and apprentice from young people that could not just help the firm, but also the young person to be trained. So I think the key here is adaptability, critical thinking. So our economics students have they build a capacity around critical thinking. So something that economics degree helps them to gain is how to plan, how to be more creative with solutions. So I do think that that's the going forward strategy should be.
Hey, thank you very much, Dr. Swati. Let's have our next question. So what advice will you give to students thinking about an economics degree?
Oh,
Prof, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what advice I would give, actually, they should be critical right now, and they should question things. It is time to question things. I mean, why they agree and why they don't agree, because we have rights, we have wrongs. I mean, we don't have rights, we don't have wrongs. So they should be critical. They should question. They should question things. They should say why they agree, why they don't agree, and they should read more and more. In economics, the other thing that I would say that they should bring their quantitative skills and qualitative skills together. That's very important, especially nowadays. So they should improve. Economics is a good degree because it gives you to improve your critical thinking skills, analytical thinking skills, decision making, and improves your employability skills. So read, actually question, and say why you agree, why you don't agree. This is a good opportunity to get this information, to get this knowledge and transfer it to the workplace. That's what I would say to the economic students. They have an advantage to get the qualitative skills and quantitative skills and put them together and be successful in the labor market.
Thank you very much for your advice. Yes, let's have our next question.
Can I add one more thing? Actually, this
yes,
is
you can.
Entrepreneur thing that I just want to add, because as Professor Cartwright said, many small businesses will have difficulties surviving nowadays because of the COVID-19. So they think that they should they should try getting support from the financial support from the government, cash grants. And these are very important for small businesses and entrepreneurs. If they have cash at first hand and they can initiate ideas or the other things. So I think it's the government should support, otherwise we are going to have many small businesses and young people who have entrepreneur potential will be lost. So I think the financial support, they should look for financial support from the government. It can be in forms of cash grant, which I think is very important to liquidate their businesses, and it can be in forms of loans. If they can get from the government. Because they are entrepreneur, I think they should ask for this financial support. That's why I'm saying that if you want to study economics, then start questioning things, ask questions, and say why you want and why you don't want things.
Thank you very much for your advice. Yes, let's have our next question. Do you have a chance to work on any real-life projects on this course? Professor Edward, can you help us with this question?
Well, I'm going to pass it on to Lauren, who I think may be the person to answer this.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that with like real life projects I did whilst on my degree, I guess you could sort of say one of my modules that I did in my first year, which I believe is, even though I did joint honours, I believe all economic students did this, I believe. So we did a marketing module, which was like, so basically in your first year, you do like a mix of different modules, which I quite liked because it gave me a bit of an insight to everything. But I also did like this, there was this marketing thing. We had to make like a marketing plan. We had to create our own firm. We did one, I think we called it Ingenious, and it was a jeans company. Like I remember doing it, and we used this like software online, and we did sort of like a marketing plan, and we like the exchange rate would change, everything would change, and it was like this software that basically your like business could like go bust, it could do really well, and you had to make marketing decisions at different stages. So each week in our seminars we would make different business decisions based on like the business environment, and I think that would be sort of like a real life project in a way, because you are sort of seeing like how quickly things are changing and things like that. So I think I would say that was a really good opportunity. I also did the Bloomberg Market Concepts course in my first year, like something you can do on the side if you choose to do so. So DMU has a Bloomberg trading room, which I really enjoyed using. So you learn how to use the Bloomberg trading terminal, you learn how it all works, what you can do on it, and it's a really nice introduction on how to use Bloomberg in general. So that was technically like Bloomberg is a real life project. There's stuff changing all the time on there. I think that was really like something that I sort of stands out to me as being a real life project, because you can see everything from change, all the trades changing and things like that. Like I really enjoyed doing that. So that's another thing. And I think as well, like real life project wise, if you do a placement, you are doing real life projects. Everything you do is directly like impacting that firm, or in my case, organization. So like, for example, I was doing sort of lots of like briefings and things like that. So that was, we'd do like a project on coronavirus, and we'd do like briefings daily about what was going on all around the world. I remember doing a briefing about like all the different sections of all different continents and what they're doing to combat coronavirus and things like that, to send colleagues. And just, I think the best way to get involved with real life projects, is definitely doing a placement year.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Let's have our next question. And then, how will the gig economy evolve in the next few years? And this one, I hope Professor Edward will help us with the gig economy evolving.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. I think it might be different for different countries. It ultimately is going to come down to a question of regulation, because we know the desire for the gig economy kind of exists, and workers are going to sign up for it. Young people particularly are signing up for it. But I think it does raise quite serious ethical issues in terms of what it means to be employed, whether it's a fair contract, whether it's a reasonable wage. As you know, as I started, that many self-employed workers are earning less than the minimum wage. Is that something we could continue? So I think it's going to come down to government of how much they want to regulate the gig economy. I think if we just have a free house, then the gig economy is going to increase. We're going to have more and more gig workers, and that will lower job security and maybe lower wages. If the government decides it wants to take a stand, then I think we'll see more regulation and therefore less gig economy. But I think the challenge is when unemployment is high, it's very difficult for a government to come in and increase regulations. At least the government we have at the moment is clearly not going to do that. And they have 4 years in power. So simple answer is I think the gig economy is going to increase quite considerably over the next few years.
Thank you very much, Professor. Just to add to all that they've said, we thank you very much for all that you've given us. And I hope that was the last question. Do you have more questions? No, you don't have any additional questions. So at this moment, we thank our resource person, our academics, for such an insightful thoughts they've given us. We are going to finish the live stream here, and we thank everyone for listening and for your question. But before you finish, we have a video that we want to share. But before that, there are more questions. There are more series that you are going to come out with the Ask the Expert talk happening tomorrow. And if you are interested and want to find more, you can just go to our website and explore live streams. And before you end, enjoy a video that you are just sharing now and have a great day. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
DMU is an experience that I'll never forget. It's been the best 4 years of my life.
It's not just your degree, it's a whole change of life.
Without coming to DMU, I would not have found the lifelong friends that I have.
So my time at DMU has been amazing. I've taken part in DMU Global, DMU Local. It's more than just a degree, it's about your friendship, the connections you make with teachers, your peers. It's more than just education.
From joining the university, I've joined societies and I've met lecturers and friends that are going to be with me for the rest of my life.
The first lecture I went to, I made friends that are lifelong, and we've gone through university together, we've travelled across the world together, and it's quite an experience.
One of the main things that I've accomplished here at DMU was being chairman of DMU Saints. It's obviously allowed me to grow so much as a person. So in the future, I'm definitely able to take what I've learned here at university and put it into practice.
Being involved in societies, there's been a lot of debates and events that we've had to host with the month for SU, and so that's helped improve my confidence and public speaking as well, which I used to hate before.
Placement team was really useful in helping me secure my placement in second year. I got a placement at Disney, and that helped me pursue what I wanted to do in the future.
I secured a grad job for Orbit Group on the finance graduate scheme. My DMU placement really contributed to me getting my graduate job.
Without a shadow of a doubt, my placement definitely led to the opportunity of my graduate job. It's been an amazing opportunity.
One of the things that I'll miss about DMU is the opportunities available to me, for example, DMU Global. I was fortunate enough to go to Berlin with DMU Global as part of their #NotOnMyCampus campaign, which was all to do with stamping out discrimination on campus.
So in January, me and 1,000 other students were able to go to New York and experience the Big Apple.
We stayed in Times Square, I went to Madison Square Gardens and NBC Studios and had a tour around there, which is all organised by the university.
My highlight's definitely the DMU Global trips. I wish I could go on more. I wish I did go on more.
These DMU Global trips have taught me that if I put my mind to it, I can do anything, basically.
I would have to say that all my teachers have been inspirational. They want you to do amazing. They want you to thrive. They want you to do great.
My personal tutor has been amazing. He definitely motivates me, and he inspires me to do stuff that I didn't think I could do.
The highlight of my time at DMU is when I joined the lacrosse team in first year, and the friends that I've made through that I know will be my friends for life.
One of my highlights at DMU has definitely been getting out there in my societies.
I'd say my highlight is actually gaining my graduate job. I couldn't have done it without DMU.
After leaving university, I know DMU will be there for any support or advice that I might need for future life.
I know that DMU for Life, they'll always help me in my future careers, help give me careers advice. I know ultimately DMU will always be home to me.